Okay, I am going to do some readings this afternoon. I'm just getting started here. So let me burn some Palo Santo. And shuffle some cards, and we'll see who shows up. Hello, Tithazorzi. Tithazorzi, hello. Welcome. All right. It's raining where I am, and I've got a cup of tea here. It's a vanilla chai. I've got my Metanoia Marseille second edition cards. All right, Jas, not that. Fabio 10, hello to you as well. And you're the first one who's requested a reading. So I would be happy to read for you. If you'd care to put a question in the chat, I will pull some cards. Today I'm just doing 3 card readings. At least that's my plan. All right. So we have a question from Jas. Jas wants a message from their spirit guides on what they need to know about self-improving self-care. We can definitely do that. Okay, so what does Jas need to know from their spirit guides about improving themselves? And welcome to anyone who might be joining. My name is Will, and I'm doing some free tarot readings today. You can check out the description of the video for how to be added to the list. I'm just doing a few 3 card readings today. I'm not going to be on for more than probably an hour, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes. Okay, Jas, not that Fabio. Here we go. First card for you. All right, this is the 13th card of the Major Arcana, unnamed in the Marseille Tarot, but commonly called Death. Followed by the Star. Quite an image we're getting in these first 2 cards. A skeleton with a scythe facing a young person kneeling, pouring out vessels of water underneath the stars. All right. And the third card down is the Popess, known as the High Priestess in Rider-Waite-Smith style decks. All right. So let's take a look at these. I'll have a sip of tea. Okay. So you asked what your spirit guides need you to know about how to improve yourself. The image is pretty clear, I'd say, that they're telling you to cut out giving too much of yourself, or perhaps relying on fate or destiny, what's written in the stars, right? And instead, gather your own knowledge, maybe do a little more of keeping to yourself. And there's something with a book here. So this could be studying, educating, reading, but it could also be writing, keeping a journal, keeping a record, um, keeping a list, something about like um, recording your experiences. Okay. So don't be afraid when this card comes up, this skeleton death card, right? This is a good card, at least in this spread, I'd say it is. It's telling this figure in the middle, who I would interpret as you now, right? It's telling you, stop doing this, right? Do you see the way that the figure on this card is pouring water from these vessels, these jugs, into a pond or a river, into another body of water? It's like giving too much of oneself in a way that might feel fulfilling for this person, for you, but that is not serving you anymore, anyways. And so instead of giving and being vulnerable and being open, uh, be the Popess instead. Sit in your chair, cover yourself up, so to speak, metaphorically, and keep your book handy. And your book may not be an actual book, it could be a metaphor there, right? But um, you need to study something more, you need to learn something more, gain knowledge, or you need to be writing something down. Like maybe it's keeping a dream journal, or just any kind of journal at all. Or maybe you need to be planning out your weeks, like organizing your time better. All of those things could be um, activities that the Popess would be engaging in. Another way to think about this would be stop just letting things happen, right? If we think about the way the stars are like destiny, they guide us, sure, but they're sort of like fixed there. Like, if you're maybe waiting for the next thing to happen under the stars, make it happen. Keep a book, keep a record, write things down so that you can gain the knowledge that you need to get what you want, as opposed to waiting for it. All right, so that's what I see for Jas. A message from your spirit guides. Oh, and you're an Aquarius, and so the star does make sense because it's the water bearer, right? Yeah. And then Jas says, "Yes, been seeing a book in my dream at night." Oh, wow. Okay, so yeah, if you've been seeing a book in your dreams, this is there's something to do with the book, right? And I think it might be like write your own story and letting the story in the stars dictate what's going to happen to you, if that makes sense. Okay, I'm going to take a peek here and see who else has requested a reading. I think it's Sanja. And it seems like Sanja wants to know if their spirit guides could tell Sanja who really likes or loves them. All right. So it sounds like we're looking for a description of a person. You're welcome, Joss. I hope that's helpful. I would definitely explore that book thing. Like, if there's a book that's you've been meaning to read and haven't, read it. Or maybe like buy a journal. If you don't already have one, maybe buy one and or if, even a couple, and keep them around so that if you feel like, like if you're remembering something from a dream that seems significant or just something that happened to you that day, if you want to like write down your list of things to do for the upcoming week. That might be something to think about. Okay, so we're reading next for Sanja Y9L, who wants a description of the person who likes or loves them. So they're looking for like a description of someone who has a romantic interest. Okay, so let's see what the cards say about the person who likes or loves Sanja. Okay, we're going to pull 3 cards. Justice is the first card up. So this is someone who is deliberate. They're a thinker. They are all about making the right decision, right? This is someone, they may not be very quick to do it, but this is someone who, after long, slow, careful, informed thought, they will weigh the evidence, they will look at different perspectives, and they will come to the right decision. So uh, it could also mean, of course, someone um, in a profession that would involve that kind of thinking, right? Like a lawyer, a judge, anyone who needs to be analytical for a living, right? Like anyone who's making any kind of judgments, even like a teacher or a professor or something like that, or even I wouldn't think like business so much immediately because while in business you have to make judgments, usually you have to make judgments quickly. But that's possible depending on other cards. So let's see what else comes up. Seven batons comes up next. And so baton, let's see. There's a couple ways to look at this. So let's stick with batons. We can think about it in terms of the effort they put into things and their work. Can also mean pressures that they're up against. And so sevens tend to be challenges or troubles, things that are difficult to do. And so this is someone who's perhaps has some kind of struggle that they're having to put a lot of effort into overcoming, at least at the moment. Oh my. And then we've got five swords. Interesting. So, five swords is traditionally a card in cartomancy of of sickness, of illness or obsession. So this could be someone with a health problem of some kind. Not necessarily, it doesn't have to be a physical one, right? Like it could be a mental health problem too. But someone who kind of needs a breakthrough of some kind to get over whatever their problem is, their health issue is. Uh, my first thought is that it's related to, of course, the card next to it, right? The seven of batons. And so, like, maybe it's that they're obsessed with work. That's a possible reading. They're obsessed with work, and that's causing them for some reason that they need to struggle, right? And I wonder if it could be that they're the kind of person who needs so badly, wants so badly, desires so badly to make the right decision that they're constantly weighing evidence or like deliberating. They're back and forth. And this challenges them. This is like a roadblock to the point where it becomes obsessive. Their need to, like almost like OCD, their need to be right. That it um, that it could the need to make the right decision could almost become a problem, right? Certainly stress. Yes. Yes, this I would absolutely think of pressure, like being under pressure to the point of needing to like feeling like one's struggling and stress with the swords in particular. Let's look at the surprise card on the bottom of the deck. It's the Hanged Man or the Hanged One. So this suggests it's someone who feels like they're making a lot of sacrifices and maybe they're not getting the response that they had hoped from other people. Like maybe they're obsessing about their work and trying really hard to do it in the right way, although maybe it's taking too much time. And they feel suspended. They feel like they're kind of stuck. They're upside down, right? Um, they're feeling a little bit like strung up right at the moment. And so this is a snapshot in time. So things could totally change for them in the future. But But this is someone who this person who's interested in you romantically, is going through a lot of stuff on their own, right? Um, they feel a little bit stuck, suspended, upside down at the moment, like they're having to make sacrifices. Uh, and I think it likely has to do with the pressure they're under, probably regarding work. And some of it could be self imposed by a need for kind of perfectionism, right? Like OCD or just a need to like make the right decision. And because they're worried about being wrong, they're maybe second guessing themselves quite a lot at the moment. Okay, Sen just says that they think they know who that is. Cool. Great. I'm glad to hear that you recognize that person. Okay, so I'm just looking at the chat. Okay, so here's the list we're going to work with. Oh, there's thunder. I don't know if you guys can hear it, but I just heard thunder. If the power goes out, I apologize. But there is rain today. It's a bit of a storm. I like the rain. I love it. But I do hope the power doesn't go out. So I think next I've got Ascending Universal Butterfly asked to please be added to the list. And then Ete N5D. I'm going to write this down. All right. And then Tithazorzi. Tithazorzi. And then Ari, such a lover girl. All right. And so that's 4 more. So that could take me an hour to do. So maybe less, but why don't I start with those 4 and then we'll see where we're at. And so if you're on the list and I call your name, I'll ask you to put your question in the chat. And if your question's already there and I see it, I'll try to just do the reading. But if I call you and I don't hear anything, I may skip over you. But I'll try to get to as many as I can. So, Ascending Universal Butterfly is up. And so if you would like to put your question in the chat. So you asked for a general reading. I'm doing just 3 card readings today, and usually for general readings, I like to do more cards for the sake of specificity. I will do a 3-card general reading if you want. I don't know that I'll be able to, without any kind of context or sense of like what area of life we're looking at. I don't know how useful the reading will be for you, but I can do it. You know what? I know what I'll do. I have an idea. I'll do a general reading for Ascending Universal Butterfly, and this is a trick I learned a while back, and I haven't actually tried it with another person. So let's try it. Okay, so this is for Ascending Universal Butterfly. Okay, so here's the trick that I learned. I'm going to cut the cards, and then I'm going to flip both halves of the deck over. And the two cards that show up, those are going to form our question. And then I'll flip them back over again and pull from the top of this card deck, half deck, 3 cards to answer that question. So the question for Ascending Universal Butterfly, who asked for general reading, the question has something to do with creating good feeling or love um, with others, growing a relationship, right? And having maybe a feeling of overthinking it, um, having too many ideas, too many thoughts floating around in one's head, an abundance of different, let's call them values or beliefs, and wondering what can a person do when they've got a desire to grow a relationship or express their affection to someone, but maybe they're overthinking this too much. Oh, you're a writer. Oh, that's helpful. Okay. So if you're a writer, I mean, I think here of creation, right? Like um, um, with cups, we've got emotions, we've got fulfillment, we've got good time. And so maybe there's a question of like how to express emotion authentically in your writing when instead of being too in the head, if that makes sense, being more in the heart instead of being in the head. All right. So let's see what we get with that with regard to writing. Although I find that with writing, it can often extend to many other areas of life. Well, the tower's first. So the tower is potentially, um, everything falling down, right? The old structure, the structure that you've established, maybe it needs to come down. Queen of Swords. I mean, this is like editing the structure of something you've written. And then 8 swords. Okay. Oh, let me make sure these are in the frame. Okay. All right. So the first thing that comes to mind is the idea of revising an outline for something that you've edited. And let me see if this resonates at all. Sometimes when you've written a draft of something and you've worked really hard on it and you value it very highly, but you want it to be better, right? You want to improve. Uh, it can be difficult, or maybe it's always difficult to cut parts of it out to acknowledge, to realize that, like, even though part of what you've written was useful for you as a writer, it may not be necessary or useful for the reader to get whatever it is that you're trying to communicate to them, right? Uh, and so, like, I I would read this as saying there's a sense of maybe valuing so highly something that you've written that there's a hesitation to edit it or revise it. Because all these swords, I think of the sword as like, well, kind of like the pen. The pen is mightier than the sword, right? Um, and the tower falling down, it's like the structure of something being knocked down so that something better can then replace it, right? So I would wonder if there's any sense in your current writing life or life in general, if there's a feeling of like needing to edit, make some cuts. Uh, with the eight of swords in particular, you might think of fearing that, like hoping, knowing that you need to make the cuts or wishing that you could, but also being afraid to do it. Right? With the eights, I often think of wishes, but also of fears, right? Something that we want to advance at, but maybe we're also a little bit afraid of doing it. Another possibility here would be that there's like a bad atmosphere surrounding you at the moment. Eights can also be the general community around you or the atmosphere. And with swords, I think of like a poisoned atmosphere, a bad atmosphere, um, things like that. Like other people around you who maybe don't want you to succeed, or it could also be. It doesn't have to necessarily be other people. It could be like your own thoughts, that kind of thing. So, what do you think? Ascending universal butterfly. Does any of that resonate? Are you editing at the moment? Okay, sounds good. So, sending universal butterfly says, "I can understand that. Makes sense to me. Thank you so much." Rose, rose, star, star, star. Cool. I hope that's helpful. Yeah, I think it's time to edit. I think it's time to make some cuts. Um, don't overthink it. If you feel like here's a place to trim it down, so to speak, go ahead and trim it down. That's, I think, what these cards are saying. Okay, so next on my list here is Ete N5D, I believe. And so Ete N5D, if you would like to post your question. There it is. Great. What career will I have in the future? Okay. So we'll pull 3 cards for Ete N5D to describe a career. Okay. So we're asking about a career that Ete and 5D will have in the future. Three cards. Nine of Cups is the first card up. So a couple things to say about this before I lay the other two. Uh, Nine of Cups makes me think of community. Like community organizer might be one way of thinking of it. But the other thing that comes up is traditionally the Nine of Cups is the wish card. So if there's like a career that you are wishing for, this card could be indicating that is indeed the career that you will have one day. Two of Swords. This could be putting up boundaries. It could also be like hashing things out with others, right? Like maybe even arguing with others. And then Eight of Batons. Eight of Batons. This is related specifically to the kind of effort that you put in or pressures that you're up against. And here I think of how organized these are all woven together. Everything is very symmetrical. It's like got several axes of symmetry, we might say. And so here I would think of like following rules, something that involves applying regulations or making sure things are filled out properly or organized in the correct way. So to put these three cards together, it sounds to me like it's a career in which you're working with a community of people and you're having exchanges with them, which they may not always be totally receptive to, right? Like there could be a little bit of conflict involved in your exchanges with them, in applying certain rules or regulations, right? Like this community of people needs to follow these rules, and your job is to like facilitate that, so to speak, right? So what would that be? Well, gosh, I mean, that could be any number of things. Um, I mean, that could be a property manager. That could be someone in HR. That could be law enforcement. It could be, I mean, maybe even like a teacher, right? To the extent that like a teacher, there are certain rules that the community of people need to adhere to, and your job is to right set up boundaries and ensure that they do. Um, let's look at the surprise card on the bottom of the deck. It's the Fool. So very interesting. I've got so many ideas coming up when with the Fool shows up. Um, and so my mind is reeling with possibilities, and instead of just rambling them off, I'm thinking through some of them. Because the most important thing is to answer the question that was asked. And so you asked, what will your future career be? I think the fool here in that context is indicating a sense of um, you're being indifferent to whether or not people want to follow the rules, if that makes sense. Uh, and maybe even a sense that like you it might not be important to you whether you think the rules are good or the regulations are good, right? Like, okay, I see you said you're interested in being a lawyer. Okay, you're interested in being a lawyer. So, like, whether a lawyer thinks the law is right or good or just doesn't matter, right? It doesn't even necessarily matter, like, from the lawyer perspective, whether the case you're arguing is true, right? That would be the card of justice, right? Justice cares about truth. Um, the fool is kind of indifferent to that. It sort of matters like where can I go, right? The fool's walking, fool is moving forward. So it's like an indifference or a not paying any attention to whether or not it's true. But like, can you get there? Can you make the argument? I think that's how lawyers tend to think. Um, so that could certainly be in your future. And I would think that it would have something to do with like a community of people as opposed to like I don't know, maybe you end up doing law for like tenant law, right? Like people at an apartment building who are getting screwed over by a landlord, right? And so your job is to come in. You're not just helping one person, you're helping like a whole group of people, right? Or like class action lawsuits where like a corporation broke the regulations, right? And now your job is to like have a duel to protect this group of people, right? Okay, so let me see who's next on my list. And I think it's Titha Zorzi. Titha Zorzi. You're welcome, Ete. I wish you the best of luck with your future career goals. Okay, so Titha Zorzi, if you're here, I can read for you. And if not, the next step would be Ari, Such a Lover Girl. Ah, you are here. Titha Zorzi is here. Okay, so I think maybe you posted your question earlier. Okay, so you have you're in France, and your love interest is in Australia, and you want to know, will the two of you communicate again? You last saw each other in February. And so the question is, will you communicate again? And so are you not currently communicating at all, like even through text or anything? Okay, so it sounds like it's a no contact situation. And let's see, this is November, and so it's been since February. So it's been more than half a year. Okay, but let's see. The question is, will the two of you communicate again? Shall we put a timer on this? I like to work if timing is interesting or of interest. I like to build the time frame into the question. So shall we say in the next 6 months? Because beyond 6 months, I find that it's less useful. Okay, so will the two of you communicate in the next 6 months? That's the question. Three cards. The Pope, known as the Hierophant in like the Rider-Waite-Smith decks. Force, known as Strength in Rider-Waite-Smith. And the Star. No pip cards at all. Three major arcana. Let me look at these a minute. I'm very tempted to say that the answer is yes because of the Star card. Because when I see the Star, I see a figure who is offering something up, who's pouring something out of themselves, right? Like who's open and ready to communicate. And then I also look at the star and the actual star as opposed to the human figure. And I think about the way that it's guidance, right? And it reminds me of networks that we would communicate with, right? And so my tentative answer to your question is yes, but then I'm looking at these other cards and trying to see how they fit in, because the first card down is the Pope, and the Pope isn't one. I mean, the Pope communicates, certainly, but it's not a two-way communication, right? This is a figure who like preaches. They talk and they're not necessarily willing to listen. I mean, they will listen, like if one of students or pupils or whatever you want to call these people down here, members of the congregation, when they come to ask for counsel or a blessing, they may be granted counsel or advice or a blessing. But I don't look at this card and immediately think conversation. The Force card in the middle has a young figure who may be the same in this tableau, in this spread, as the person who is pouring themselves out in the Star card, right? And I see similarities between sort of how they look. And I always read the images first, or I try to. And so this figure is holding on to the lion as though they've tamed the beast, might be one way to put it. And so I guess here's how I would read these. The Pope, who is ready to talk, but maybe not listen so much, gets tamed, and that opens up the possibility of communication. So the answer I'll give you is yes, uh, but kind of with an if or when. Um, when there's a feeling that it will be the kind of communication that is mutually involves like mutual recognition, when it's clearly a back and forth kind of deal, and if there's a sense on their part that it's not, um, then I think the communication would not happen yet. So that's the long and the short of it, so to speak. Yes, but. So does that help? Does that make sense? Sounds like yes. I see some emojis that seem like yes. Absolutely helps. Good. I'm so glad to hear that. Yeah, I feel there's a feeling that or a sense here that, and like I don't know the gender of anybody here or their pronouns or anything, but there's clearly like a masculine kind of person and a feminine kind of person. And I feel like there's a sense that the feminine person needs to kind of feel like they have tamed the wildness or the overpowering sense of the more masculine kind of person. And that when that happens, there will be more openness and like open lines of communication. Okay, so who's next? Ari, such a lover girl, is next. And I saw a comment that my camera's having some focus. I think it's that the table I'm on is so flimsy, and the cards I'm shuffling, I love these cards. I'm not trying to criticize them. But because I love the images and I love the paper, but they don't shuffle super well. So I kind of have to manhandle them a bit. And that's making the table shake. So I hope that's not too terribly annoying. I don't love it either. I have so many different decks of cards, but with the tarot and particularly Marseille, a lot of them have nudity, which I don't care about. That's fine, but YouTube doesn't like it, and I don't want to get in trouble. And so this is the deck that I've been using lately because it is a full Marseille deck, which is what I like, but there's no nudity in it. I just have to work with kind of struggling a little bit when it comes to shuffling them. They don't want to slide super easily. Although they do have a beautiful matte finish, and so they film well because the light doesn't reflect off of them in annoying ways. All right, so Ari, such a lover girl, if you are here, I can read for you. I'm just looking through the chat to see. Okay, so Ari, such a lover girl. I think maybe you're not here. And so if you're not here, I think what I'm going to do is add 2 more to the list. And so I think the next 2 that I saw as best I could reading the chat were my, and Shradek. So is my here? You're here. Okay, Himai, if you'd like to post your question, I can read for you next. Okay. And so Himai, I'll read for you, and then Shradek, you'll be next. Okay, so Himai asks, I am currently doing my... I want to ask, is the banking field good for me or any other career? Okay, so I'm just today going to do 3 card readings. And so there's sort of 2 questions in there, which is like, on the one hand, is banking good? And then the second question is like, is there another career that's good? And so with 3 cards, I'm just going to be able to answer the first question. So I'm going to ask, is banking a good field for you? Okay. And we'll look for a yes or a no. And maybe another day we could explore different career options if one isn't readily apparent in these 3 cards. Okay, so is banking a good field for you? Another way to ask the question would be, if you go into banking, what would the result be? Right? That's sort of the implied question there. Boy, the rain's really coming down. I love it. Okay, is banking a good field? Page of Cups. King of Swords. And the Magician. Let's look at these a minute. Well, I'm tempted to say that I'm not sure it's a good fit. Because the first card down, Page of Cups, I would see this as you. And so the Page of Cups is someone who's sensitive to others, They like to have a good time. They understand, they understand people's emotions, right? And they empathize as well. Uh, they're imaginative, they're creative. And this Page of Cups is looking away because they don't want to see what the King of Swords is doing to the magician, right? Like the King of Swords is over here with their sword up, like, hey, you better behave. And the magician is maybe doing some funny business under that table of his. And the Page of Cups, like, doesn't want to look at it, right? So, in other words, in banking, there might be some very strict, ruthless, difficult decisions, cuts that need to be made, maybe against people who are tricky or a little shady or unscrupulous. Uh, but it's like the Page of Cups is turning away from that. He's more interested in his cup than he is in the inner financial workings of a bank. So I would wonder, like, do you have any creative pursuit, or um, are you like a social person who's good with dealing with relationships with others? Um, and I wonder if something like that might be better suited. The other thing to consider, of course, is the page is the lowest rank of the court cards. And so pages can grow and develop into something else. So another way of thinking of it might be like it might not be a good fit at first, immediately. Um, let's look at this surprise card and see what other info that gives us. It's another page, this time the Page of Batons. And so this does open up the idea that, like, if you were to put in the effort, it is perhaps something that you could, like, get good at or become accustomed to, so to speak. The Page of Batons is the brand new hire, like the new worker, right? Who has to learn the ropes and doesn't know what they're doing yet, right? And so, seeing the second page come up is like, maybe instead of being the Page of Cups, you could put down your cup. If you commit yourself to being good at this career and are ready to um, sort of reshape around it, that there is a possibility of that happening. Uh, but I don't know that it's like you're it's not as though you're necessarily predisposed to it. It's like if you work at it, it could eventually be a good fit. But it's not like what I'm seeing here isn't like, oh yeah, of course. Like what of course there's the only thing you should be as a banker. That's not what I would say. I think there's other things you would have to kind of turn away from in order to go into banking. And if that's what you want, this card's saying it is an option, but you would have to decide for yourself whether you want to put down your cup, so to speak. If that makes sense. Okay, you understand. Great. I hope that's helpful. Something to think about. So, next on my list is if Shradek is here. Hey, Shredek. So I can do a reading for you I'm not sure if you might already have posted your question, but if you haven't, feel free to post it. Okay, I will scroll up and see if I can find it. There it is. I see it. What potential success can I achieve if I take this public leadership path? Ooh, interesting. What a great question. And so is this like a public leadership path in school or college or university or something? And you're thinking like, if I follow this like path of like training or education, what success could I achieve? Could you achieve? It's political. Okay. Okay. What success can Shredek achieve if they follow this public leadership path? Three cards for Shredek. Star. Seven batons. Queen of Cups. Let me look at them for a moment. I mean, there is some success here. The question was what kind of success or what success could you achieve? The fact that we have one of the court cards ending the string, the Queen of Cups specifically, tells me like, well, that's success, right? uh, because I can't help but see we've got the figure kneeling down, giving of themselves, pouring themselves out, so to speak. So like if you pour yourself out in this public leadership path, as you said it, and if you're guided by it, as one would be guided by the stars, you will be challenged, and there will be pressure. You will have to put effort into it. There may be struggle, right? But it's not the kind of struggle that's impossible to overcome. You just will have to rise to the occasion, right? And and then you could turn yourself into this regal figure who isn't pouring everything out of their cups or vessels anymore, but now sort of has the cup in their hand, and maybe could offer it to someone or maybe keep it for themselves, right? Pouring out and also being kind of vulnerable if you see the figure is a little more bare, whereas here the figure is fairly well concealed, right? Like, um, it's not like she's wearing armor or anything, but she does have like a headdress on, and she's totally covered up, and she's got. I'm trying to see if it's a wand or what this is, but she's got this little rod or scepter, and a tool that we could imagine her um, commanding others with, right? So I think the answer is that you could achieve a certain level of success to the point where you would, you'd have like a throne to sit on. That would be a way to put it. Yeah, she's the Queen of Cups, and um, she's able to give to others, but she's also smart enough to know when she should drink from the cup herself, right? As opposed to the star who um, pours everything out completely. And so that's the stage you would need to go through. So the answer to the question is, can you achieve something? Absolutely, you can, but it will be work. It will be work to do it. So with struggle comes success, which is often the most we can hope for. Cool. So let's see what we've got here in the chat. Hi, Anne's Human, if you're here. I think that I'm going to do like one more reading and then call it for this afternoon. So, Anne's Human or who else? Chris Six, if you're here, I could read for you. Anne's Human's here. Okay, so Anne's Human, you got it. I will do a reading for you, and I think you'll be the last for today's live stream. All right, and we have a love question. What's coming towards me in love? You're single. Let's put a timing on this. Shall we say 3 months? Does that sound good? You had a breakup 3 months ago. Okay. So let's see then what's coming in the next 3 months or so. Okay, one more shuffle. So what's coming up in love? What's coming towards Anne's Human in love in about the next 3 months? That's our question. Page of batons. Queen of batons. And 5 batons. Interesting. So I don't know you. I know that I've read for you before, but it was months ago. I'm pretty sure. Ends human. And so I can't remember the context, right? But I'm seeing 2 figures, and one they're both batons figures. And so when court cards from the same suit show up, they're from the same metaphorical family, right? Like they're from the same workplace or group, or they know each other, right? And so there's 2 people here, and they already have some kind of relationship with one another. And I think it's okay, yeah, college, you say, college or work, something where they're both putting in effort, right? They're like they're working at something. Whether they're being paid is a different question. So absolutely, any kind of school would fit there. And so because I don't know well enough who is who, one person is looking at the other, but then the other is not looking back. Okay. So, like, my first thought is that this is you, that the first card down is you, and that you are looking at this Queen of Batons. And the Queen of Batons is sort of higher rank, so to speak, higher rank than the page. Maybe not, maybe not actually. It could be just in the page's mind, right? It doesn't necessarily mean that she's like older or anything like that. Um, but there's a feeling like there's a difference of level between them, and the queen is looking at the 5 batons, and the 5 batons are work, right? She's so focused on getting stuff done and the pressures that she's under, that she's not looking back at the interest, it seems, that this page is showing. Okay, so if you perhaps identify more with the Queen of Batons. Got it. Okay. So if you maybe identify more with, and they could eat like when the way that I read tarot, any of the court cards could be a person of any gender, but it sounds like you might identify more with Queen of Batons, which is great. In which case, if this is you, it's that you're so focused on work that you don't see somebody else who is focused on you, if that makes sense. Right? Like this person in the middle is working so hard at at college is what you mentioned. So that's what I would think. They're trying to overcome their problems. Maybe they're having to compete with others, like in exams and things like that. There's a lot of pressure on them. They're working their body very, very hard, nose to the grindstone kind of stuff, right? That's what's happening. And so, because of all of that, this person in the middle isn't noticing that somebody else is looking at them. So, okay, let me answer your question. The question is like, in the next 3 months, um, there very well may be someone who's making eyes at you, but you don't see it because you're so busy with everything else that you have to get done. That's the way that I'd put it. And this may be someone who is like younger than you, or like in a younger year than you, or newer to your program. And I'm noticing the difference in rank between the queen and the page, right? Like it's not like a queen and a king or a queen and a queen. It's a queen and a page, right? And so pages are like initiates. They're new. There's something new about them, right? So it could just be that they're new to the school, or they're but you are in the same group. You're both in the batons group, right? So like you're at the same college, but maybe they just showed up, for example. That could be it. Like if a new semester starts, right, in January or something, because we said for 3 months. So if a new semester starts, maybe this is someone who's joined mid-year in the new semester, something like that. That would be a possibility. So the sort of thing to think about would be um, keep your eye open for that person. Don't get overly distracted by your studies, by your work, that kind of thing. Okay, well, I know that I didn't get to read for everyone today, and some who reason or another, like were on the list, but then maybe other readings took long or whatever it was, and they couldn't be here. So I'd love to read for you all another day if I wasn't able to read for you today. I encourage you to subscribe to the channel so that you'll be more easily able to tell when I am live. And I'm going to wrap it up today. You're very welcome, Anne's Human. I wish you the best of luck. And that'll do it for today. I'll see you all next time. Have a great day. Be well. And I hope to read for you in the future. Bye-bye.